Static came over the intercom, followed closely behind by a voice, male and authoritative.
Right.
It commanded. My eyes fluttered open. My head throbbed. As my eyes opened, the scene around me began to coalesce. I was strapped to a medical chair, dressed in a medical gown with electrodes hanging off me. I jerked suddenly and fought against my restraints. In my thrashing, I could feel the drooping of my lip and the dribble of saliva.
Write what you remember.
The voice boomed again. I stopped fighting, the restraints not giving anyways. In front of me, the wall was covered in black glass, from which I could feel the expectant glares from those unknown. Looking down, I could see my right hand, which is cuffed to the table in such a way that I can scribble with a pen on paper which lay near. The momentary pause and reevaluation from me seemed to give them some small hope for something. After a moment, I spoke out in a slurred, raspy voice. Right, what? After several moments, static came, followed by a sigh, and his voice once more.
Then go back and don't come back without it.
That was the last thing I heard, for something entered my mouth in searing pain, like all my muscles spasming at once, like lightning coursing through my veins. I awoke, rocking back and forth on waves, nestled and cradled like a baby. I felt tired, beyond imagination. But as the water splashed upon my face, my eyes fluttered open, and before me was a vast, bright sky, whose stars shone without limitation. My eyes closed shut once more, the ocean's rhythm taking me away. But then, like a chill in a temperate room, I felt it, like goosebumps running up my arm, or fire in my brain. My eyes opened once more. The sky and ocean remained, but a light passed by the sky. In a slow circular motion, it lit up overhead. Like a beacon in the night, it called to me. And for the first time, I shifted myself in the water and could see the source of the light. It was not but several yards away on a shore of a land I had never seen before. On an overhanging cliff, there was a lighthouse. As I shifted myself in the water, I looked down and could see the true nature of the sea. It was the color of obsidian, dark and mirror-like, its depths unguessable and unreachable. My first strokes towards land felt almost normal, but as I swam, the water began to resist, or more like resist less. Before I could float on top of, like a waterbed, is now becoming like air, which my struggles meant nothing to as I sank and found no resistance to my strokes. And sink I did. Unsure how far shore was, I clawed and pulled in the direction I thought it was. And just when I thought I would disappear into the dark sea of black forever, my flailing hands and feet hit silt. Clawing and crawling, I pulled myself out of the obsidian sea and sat on the shore looking out. Above shone a beautiful star-filled sky with colors that reflected off the mirror-like sea, creating an endless horizon of galaxy pastels. Beneath me, on the shore, the rocks, sand, and stone were all gray, creating the illusion of black against the colored night sky. Standing, realizing I'm still in a medical gown, but my clothes are all dry, and my skin is certainly wet and has sand sticking to it. Steadily, I head up the shore. As I head higher up and the terrain turns rocky, I quickly find myself crawling over boulders and larger stones, but no life could be seen or felt. Only land beneath my feet and night before my eyes. I stumble upon the flatter top of the overhang and find myself on hands and knees before the structure before me. The rocks and stones around the foundation of the structure look as if it was built into the structure, giving it an illusion that the lighthouse sprang from the earth. For a few long moments, I knelt there on all fours, looking up at it, studying it. The lighthouse itself was gray and white, like someone had turned the color off in the place. At the front of the lighthouse was a large set of metal double doors, outlined by something sharp and pitch black. On the front of the metal doors, engraved, were 3 images: an acorn, a tree, and a stump. The door was flanked on both sides by lanterns and was slightly ajar. The stairs leading up to the door were also stone that looked like jagged teeth, as if stray flat rocks were stacked to make them. Standing and approaching, I saw that the door was encircled by black onyx coral that shone like glass. Without reason or fear, I entered. Inside, I found only stairs leading up. I climbed. At the top, I found a plain brown wooden door, the kind you would find in a library. I opened it and found an open half circle of a room. On both sides of the room, the walls were covered in bookshelves. To my left and behind me was another door. What kept me there was the window that looked out over the black ocean and stars, and the young woman in dark purple and black in the center of the room. She sat there, turned away from me, looking out the window. Her hair was straight and black, and from her forearm I could see that her skin was pale and gray looking. Before I could announce my presence, she said, "That which is learned cannot be unlearned or truly forgotten, even in your subtlest of memories." I stood there, stunned and speechless, before I stuttered out some words. "Who are you? Where am I?" I asked rightfully, and no one answered, or even a sign she heard me came. After a long time, I began to unstiffen and look at the space, the sound of the sea reaching up here and calming my nerves. I began to look around. The whole time she never stirred, looked my way, or changed positions. I began to walk the wall, avoiding the window out of suspicion for her. Looking up and down the bookshelves, I realized that I recognized none of these books. There are no readable words or recognizable authors. It just seemed like random tomes and texts, all old and seemingly valuable, but none readable. Curious, I reached out and touched the spine of one interesting-looking book, bound in something green that glinted slightly in the low light of the room. As I moved my finger to the top of the book, as if I were going to pull it out, she spoke again. To drift to sea and fall asleep, peaceful fate awaits. To fight the current, stay awake, takes courage to survive. But bite the apple, forbidden knowledge, and never be the same. What choice do you make? Once again, I am stunned at her words and confused at the meaning. Again, I pulled at the book. This time she turned her head and looked at me. Her eyes were all black, and she had obviously been crying. She looked at me with sadness on her face and said again, "What choice do you make?" I looked at her, but did not understand her meaning. Besides, it was too late to heed her, and my hand felt compelled to complete its action. I held the tome in my hand. It was covered in bright green scales, like that of a viper. The cover had no markings or signs of any kind of author or title. Looking back at the girl, she had gone to looking out the window, but I could hear gentle sobs. I opened the book and read what could not be read. Mouthing wordless words, I flipped from page to page, absorbing the nonsense that was inside without language, and wept. Found myself laughing, yelling, cursing, clawing at myself, and before I knew it, it had all been read. And I was left anew. The next thing I knew was pain and a sound. It reminded me of a heartbeat, a sound I didn't know I was missing. Static came over the intercom, followed closely behind by a voice, male and authoritative.
Right.
He commanded. This time, my eyes fluttered open and locked onto the paper and pen. There was no need this time for more direction. Ignoring my body's warning signs, I frantically scribbled and wrote what I could. The understanding without words tried to flow through what was left of my motor functions, and what was left on the paper was unrecognizable even to me. Exhausted and spent, like a newborn calf, I stopped and felt the full brunt of the soreness and burnt nerves that had cost me this knowledge. Soon after, someone was sent in to check the note. He nodded to the invisible force behind the glass. Before long, doctors entered the room and began taking vitals and stabilizing me. As I drifted off, my mind never strayed from the tome of scales. It danced with the knowledge within, and all the new things it will give birth to. As I drifted off, I could hear gentle sobbing, like something I had imagined too vividly, echoing in my mind.